Hey friends, Wayne over here at the Ram Man Inc. Here's some helpful information. May save you some time and some money and possibly some grief. So, what I wanted to talk about today is I wanted to talk about a couple of disc brake kits that we're famous for. We've done the Dana 44 small knuckle for years and years. It's out there. We sell a bunch of the Dana 44 HDs, or what are the big knuckles. This is an example of a Dana 44 heavy duty big knuckle right there. And what we have here is they are physically basically the same size. What we have here is we have a Dana 60 closed knuckle. And these were used on the military M715s. And they came with these great big old hubs. 67, 68, 69 for NOM. Some people have seen these and are familiar with them. This is a great big old giant 6-lug hub. But there's no wheels in the whole world for these except for the originals. And so I'll show you real quick. So here are the original bearings for this great big old 6-lug. A lot of people don't know this, but the 60 front spindle and the modern 80-ish up 70 and 80 spindle are essentially the same. They're the same. The bearing widths are a little bit different, but the bearings can interchange in between at will. In other words, you can put, if you want to, you can put an 80 hub and 80 bearings on this spindle. The 80s are being a little bit wider. So, back to our project. So, here's the factory bearings. Now, the original inner bearing is the same size as a 80s up 70. Basically, when you have the same diameter, in order to change capacities, you put a wider bearing, more load. So here's the original, and here's a late model 70. Off like a 72U. It doesn't matter. It be out of a Dodge, Ford, Chevrolet. It doesn't make a shit. So that's it. Now, when it comes to the outer bearing, the late model is much wider and has much more of a carrying capacity. So, on these 6 lugs, number one, you can't get a disc brake kit for it. You're stuck with them one and only wheels. If you're able to change the hubs out, you have access to thousands, tens of thousands to a standard late model hub. So here we go. Fits on there just like that. And then your bearing goes on. Now, keep everything together. modern bearing, 80s up. Modern hub, 80s up. This is off of 70, rear. Here's the bigger bearing. Voila. There you go. We put a late model 80s up hub on your M715. So now you have access, you can really customize that buggy. Because they came out, you know, they're $1.25 tons. They're pretty, a lot of people buying them military buggies and restoring them. And they're bringing a shit ton of fucking money on, there's one down the street here in Dallas that's for $100 grand. Got an LS motor in it and 4L80 and anyway. So, gives you access to thousands of wheels and thousands of tire combos. So that's what's cool about it. And if you wanted to, it allows you to put disc brakes also on the front of that buggy. You with me? It's too hard to find a rotor, modern rotor, that'd be big enough for the hat to get on this big flange, drill the pattern and all the way. It becomes pretty doggone expensive. And I really didn't tackle that version because most of the people that are going to keep these hubs, they're not going to put disc brakes on it. Them are people that are restoring a buggy and they're not changing a bunch of stuff out. That's what I think the only reason you would keep those skinny little ridiculous factory wheels and them hard tires. So that's all that you have to do the conversion. Now, that's the easy part. Now, this is easy too. The difference between this original 6-lug and a modern rear 60, 70, or 80 hub, the difference is basically 1.5 inches on the flange. So, this flange is about 1.5 inches closer to the frame. 1.5 inches on a big buggy like that is not a lot. You with me? So, you can offset that by just picking out your wheels with a different back spacing. And of course, I mean, when it comes to an 8 on 6.5, they've been using that pattern all three for God knows how. There's got to be at least 10 million different wheels that fit an 8 on 6.5. I mean, it is prolific. The modern hub is basically 0.550, little over 1/2 of an inch shorter than the original. So, you can keep your original axles and everything bolts up. We can supply you with these spacers. Spacer goes on like that. You can cut down your axle ends, your flanges, and we just re-drill them to match. So, you can change the bolt pattern, modify your flange. We just braze them up and turn them and re-drill them. And voila, you maintain your full-wheel drive, your axles, it all just bolts up. most of you guys can visualize it. The difference in the length is a 1/2 inch 50 thousandths. So that's how you accomplish that. And you maintain your full-wheel drive and everything. Fairly simple to do. You just send us your pucks and we'll modify them. It's not a freaking fortune. And we'll modify them and send you out the spacers. So just bolts right up. And you can get you some hubs from the wrecking yard. You can buy them off of eBay or Venture Trucks or something like that. Or the cheapest way is to buy you an old rear 60 or 70 axle. So you get the hubs and the bearings and everything. So hell, you can find them some bitches for $100 or $200. So once again, you can change your bolt pattern, open up a whole new world, get your new hubs and bearings and everything for a couple $100 an axle. That's pretty hard to beat that. Couple $100 today, 2025. Here it is, February 2025. That's pretty